Welcome to Better Business Podcast. My name is Alexi, and today I've got Paul Farmer with me. How are you going, Paul?
Good, Lexi. How you doing?
Yeah, good, good. Paul's a business coach located in Brisbane right now. However, Paul's got a bit of a story as to how he actually started doing business coaching, and there's, I think, much more to it. So, Paul, why don't you, tell us your story, mate?
Alexi, thanks for that, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to share some of my journey so far, which I'm going to be honest has been a bit of a roller coaster. It's gone from growing up in a town population 800 in the country to living in London for 8 years, working for one of the biggest companies in the world, to then back to Brisbane and running my own business. So, a quick snapshot for me: country kid, grew up, moved to a bigger country town to go to school and university in Toowoomba, just outside Brisbane. For those that would know, moved to Brisbane, became an accountant, wanted to be a PE teacher, but wasn't able to do that because I wasn't smart enough. Let's put it that way. So became an accountant. Moved to Brisbane, worked for an accounting firm, another accounting firm, went to London on a holiday, started working for Shell. Some people may know, have heard of Shell. Then worked for another Canadian company, Petro-Canada, in the accounting, financial forecasting space. We got taken over, came back to Brisbane for another Canadian oil and gas company. Got to a point where 20-hour days, I was about to do my fifth, walked into a meeting and realized that someone had been given a piece of work that they didn't want. They said to give it to us, and we didn't have time. So I technically went to get up, jump over the table, and take matters into my own hand around potentially punch someone on the other side of the table, which fortunately someone suggested that I should go and find a red folder in their office. It didn't exist, but it gave me an opportunity to sit and reflect on what I was about to do and what I was doing. And the phrase "nothing changes if nothing changes" came into my head. And at that point, I thought, you know what? Am I living me and my true being? And the answer was no. So I resigned, spent 3 months, and literally had 4 coffees a day talking to people about what they were going through and how they couldn't see what they were trying to do. And I thought, you know what? There's something in this. I kind of enjoy helping people unpack their own spaces. Now, I'd never had any coaching. I'd never had any mentoring. I haven't really had any structured support in that space. So this was new to me. I fast forward to today, and I sit as it's like a silent business partner in a business. I sit and help business owners have the conversation around what's coming up in their space about strategically the business, or people, or suppliers, or profitability, or I'm at the end of the phone or across the table, sitting and helping them unpack their space to be able to then see what's possible.
Well,
They
look,
can make it possible.
yeah, yeah. Oh, look, obviously you've made it quite short, but mate, I think that's quite a journey. And I meet a lot of people in that space that have gone into the whole corporate world without realizing that it's a surefire place to burn out unless you obviously have got some guidance. And you're absolutely right. Like there's obviously not a lot of coaching and mentoring unless you're lucky and have someone on personal basis to assist you through that journey. I mean, money is great in the corporate world. However, you've got meetings, you've got other things that sort of fill in your day. And even though you're expected to work for 8 hours, I think everything else like meetings and all the extra stuff that you got to be good at, research and so on, really fills in the gaps, mate. Totally relate.
Well, let's be clear. We're expected to do more than 8 hours. Let's be honest. Okay. So the expectation that your hours are from here to here, but there will be extra as and when is needed. Well, sometimes the unwritten expectation is that you'll do 10, 12, 14-hour days to be able to get done what needs to be done. And, we see a lot of that in larger organizations. It's not written, but it's an unwritten way of operating, which the expectation is you do what you have to do to get the job done, or to get things over the line, or get them
Absolutely.
done to meet others' expectations, which, leads to burnout.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I think the whole work-life balance is really important here because you can only do it for so long. And look, it may be great experience and overall good exposure, but you just can't keep doing it forever. And if you do that, obviously that jeopardizes everything else, mate. So with the
Yeah.
accounting background that you've got, and obviously being on top of all the figures of larger companies and seeing what they do, has that been helpful or instrumental in your coaching?
Totally. So, and it's probably one of the elements that I find is a little bit of a point of difference with a number of other coaches or strategists, or because I get the numbers, because I understand the numbers, I know how to influence the numbers in a way that's going to be most beneficial for profitability, etc. Then we have a conversation about operational, and I have an understanding of what the financial impact of those operational decisions are
Hmm.
going to be before we have to make that decision. So, for example, I sat with a business owner last week, and we sat down, and they said, well, we want to do this, 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 and this. And I said, okay, well, you want to add, 10 new clients, but you're making 10% profitability on those clients. I said, what if you added 3 at 30% profit, or 4 at 30% profit? I said, you can do a third as much and still be able to get the same profitability, and you don't have to add an extra 4 people to your team. Yeah. So for me, having an understanding of the profitability of business allows the conversation around operations and operational decisions to be able to then fully understand what is it that's going to show up in your profit and loss, or in your bank account, or whatever it is in your cash statement. What's going to show up based on the decisions that we're about to make. And
Absolutely.
have you considered that? Or is it, I need to get 6 new people? For what purpose? Well,
Mm.
we want to do an extra $50,000 a month. I need 6 extra people. I said, well, what's to say you do? I said, what if you were able to get an extra 10 clients at $5,000 a pop, but didn't have to do extra for that? If you could work it so it stayed within the capacity that you've got. And so having that understanding to say, well, profitability at the end of the day, if you don't know your numbers, then do you really fully understand what's happening in your business? Not really.
Absolutely. Well, look,
Yeah.
I think from my experience in business, numbers don't lie. So that's the one thing you could obviously be guided by. However, you do talk to business owners, especially the smaller businesses, where there's obviously a lot of personal stuff, a lot of emotion involved, and a lot of time people make decisions based on their gut feel or emotions, as opposed to obviously being guided by the numbers. And I'm sure you probably end up having to deal with these people probably too late.
Yeah.
So what sort of tips would you have for business owners that are potentially making decisions about, hey, I need to get another person on board, or I want to increase my price or reduce my price or whatnot? Like, what would you advise
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. A lot of, and great comment, great question, because that's coming up a lot at the moment. What we're starting to find is people are starting to second guess their gut feel. They're starting to second guess the decisions they're making. They're starting to be in a space where, and rather than coming from a space of abundance, they come from a space of fear. Yeah. If I'm looking at putting an extra person on, do I look at the cost of the extra person, or do I look at it as a resource that may be that they can take a bucket load of work off my space, which means that I can operate at a higher charge out rate, for example.
Mm.
Or it's going to allow me to be able to then spend more time doing business development, which means the business will grow, as opposed to it's going to cost me $100,000 a year to put this person on.
Hmm.
Well, if I focus on that, then the fear of I've got to spend that, or I've got to find that, it steps in, as opposed to sitting back and going, well, what if you don't?
Yeah, yeah,
What
that's
if
right.
you don't? What are you not going to be able to get off your plate
Mm.
to have someone else take on, to allow you to operate at a higher level, which means you get better clients, you get more profitable clients, your customers are happier, they have a better experience, so they're prepared to pay more without having to go and find extra oranges. It's how do you squeeze more out of the oranges that you have? And a lot of
Absolutely.
that comes from the mindset of the business owner. As they say, the fish rots from the head.
Mm.
The business is a reflection of the business owner or the senior people in the business. So if they're driven by fear of losing or fear of something happening, or it's going to cost me 100 grand to put a person on, where's that going to come from? Well, then it's about what could happen if you do. Well, we could potentially have that person charged out at 200 bucks an hour as opposed to 100 bucks an hour what they're costing us. So we get 200 grand in the door. So then there's an extra 100 grand of profit on that in that space. But that takes a mindset shift away from fear of losing or not having to a mindset of abundance in that space.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about price in a minute. I just wanted to sort of comment on something that you said. I think, the whole gut feel thing has also got a bit of a delay to it as well, because obviously people have a gut feel. They sit on this idea for a while, and look, over COVID, obviously the demand went through the roof. A lot of businesses basically just needed human power to fill the gaps, and it was really a no-brainer. Now, I do find that quite a lot of people are still chasing resources where the actual economy has gone the other way. And as a result, they're still following through with a gut feel. So I can totally understand what you're saying in relation to sort of like, second guessing or potentially questioning that gut feel now because of that time constraint on the whole thing as well. Great. I think that's a really big comment.
And they're also now starting to challenge what's this thing that I'm actually creating. That's the
Absolutely.
thing that excites me. And in a way, COVID has allowed us as humans to challenge the way we think about what it is that we're currently doing.
Yeah, great,
Because a
great.
lot of business owners are now starting to go, well, I'm creating a business, but what is this thing? What do I actually want?
Yeah.
As opposed to what do I feel I had pre-COVID? Or what is it that other people expect that I do with my business? It doesn't matter. It's your business. Get out and create what it is that you actually want. And if you want to say no to rubbish clients, say no to rubbish clients. It's your space. My house, my rules is something that we operate on. And if we want people in our space that make our business feel good, we want to deal with good people.
Right. Well, let's come back to the whole price question, because I think that's a big one. And look, as someone who's involved in sales and marketing, I can see this happening all the time. We often have clients coming to us where there's no firm philosophy or idea as to how much they charge and why they charge that. So what's your take on price? Because, in my understanding, that's probably one of the easiest things a business can change in order to create probably the biggest impact on the ROI and profits.
Yeah, I'm going to say, and this may be somewhat controversial in certain circles, but I'm going to say the price should be irrelevant. Yeah, the price should be irrelevant, because if someone doesn't go ahead based on price, either we haven't given them enough reasons for them to want to go ahead, or they may be 100% price conscious, which means that they're not focusing on the value they get, which means that they may not necessarily be our clients because they are purely price focused. Yep. So in terms of looking at the way that we as humans, we're emotional beasts. Yeah. As humans, we buy on emotion. So if you look at traditional sales in terms of someone comes to you and starts telling you about a product or about what they do or how they do it, is there any emotional attachment to that whatsoever? No. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Why do certain people in this world choose to pay $10,000 for a handbag? Yeah. Is it based on price? Obviously not, because it's based on the feeling they have once they have this thing that they want. And to have the feeling, an investment of $10,000 will give them that feeling. So they're prepared to pay $10,000 to get a handbag. Yeah. Now, other people, they wouldn't pay 15 cents for a Coles handbag to take their groceries at home. So again, but if we're able to highlight what the value is that people will get, then I'll be honest, a lot of my clients in our space, they don't even ask what the price is. They just go, you know what, I can see what you're going to do for us and how you're going to help us and the value you're going to add. Just send me the paperwork and we'll get on with it.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly relate to it. However, I must say that when it comes to products and services, they are obviously very different, because when it comes to a service, there is a sales process associated with that service, a conversation, if you like, prior to the engagement. With a product, it's really more to do with the brand and the positioning of that product, which is sometimes a little bit hard, especially for startups. I mean, we often get clients coming with a great product, but there could be a competitor that's well established, and it's very difficult for them to sort of penetrate that market and basically charge more. So what sort of advice would you have for product owners that are basically wanting to enter the market with a good product, however, something that's somewhat challenging from the perspective of competitors and market dominance?
Again, people buy an emotion. Let's be, if I see an ice cream and I tell people it's an ice cream, then that ice cream will be exactly the same as every other ice cream. But and I had this conversation with a client a couple of days ago. I said, why does Mr. Whippy play the music when they drive around the neighborhood? Yeah. Why do they do that? It's not because they're telling people that what they do. It brings up an emotion of, oh, as a kid, I used to get an ice cream and that used to make me feel good. So if I'm in a space whereby if I want to be different to an existing something that's in the market, then my responsibility is to build up an element of emotional attachment to what it is that my product is before they have to get or use or buy my product. And again, I use an ice cream as an example. If we're selling ice creams, how many different types of ice creams are there in the world? Yeah. But what do? I've got to build up an emotional attachment to someone wanting my ice cream as opposed to someone else. If someone else literally says, well, I've got an ice cream, it's made up of lemonade and it's this, then it's like, is there any emotional attachment to that? No. But if I build up an emotional attachment, which essentially is when you are growing up, then is it the kids that are going to be buying it? No, generally it's mum and dad. So who do I need to attach it to? Attach the emotional attachment to mum and dad. Go, when you were growing up, on a hot day, did you have that lemonade icy pole? Oh, yeah, that was so good. Well, then we're back, or we're here, or that's us. Yep. And all of a sudden you start to take it away from, and it might be more expensive. But at the same time, you're attaching an emotional, what do you call emotional hook to what it is that you're asking them to make a decision on. Yep. Engage the emotional side of our brain to then go, once the gatekeeper's actually got that emotional attachment, then we can talk about logic and talk about price.
Yeah.
That's my way of shifting a dynamic, which potentially is, especially in we'll call it the financial space, it's all about logic and it's all about no emotion. It's just price. This is what you get. Product is the same, whatever it is. But it's shifting it to go, well, how do we be different how do we be the purple cow in a market where there's a bunch of cows?
Great. Well, look, I think, it's all really about advertising then, right? Once you identify these bits and pieces, that's where your classic advertising comes through. And if you're able to follow through with your message along that customer journey, then that's where you'd be the winner. And look, I think regardless of how dominated the market may be by competitors, there's always room for a business that's got a point of difference. I really quite like the whole point of difference approach, because I think a lot of the time, people are focused too much on what their competitors are doing and trying to copy them. And this is quite frequent. I get this all the time. Someone comes in and say, hey, we want to run our marketing campaign like these guys. And it's like, well, do you know how they sell? Do you know what their business strategy is? Do you get much of that yourself?
Yeah, totally. It's like people come in and I'll be honest, people come in and they say, oh, I've done some research and these people, they charge that, they do this, they do that, they do that. And I say, well, maybe they're the people you want to go and speak to, because we are totally different. We aren't systems and process focused. We sit and spend most of our time unpacking the business owner or the business owners or the people that we're working with. We unpack what's stopping them from making the decisions to actually move forward, as opposed to let's look at the systems and processes you have in your business. Yeah, because for a lot of people, and most of that is around emotion. Yeah, so most people that are in the coaching space from a business perspective, they're very systems and process oriented, And it's like, show me the business and I'll be able to show you efficiencies. Well, for me, I have this build the human, build the business. So if I want the business to grow, then I want the business owner to be the one that is growing, and then the business reflects their growth in terms of the decisions they're making. They're more quality decisions more often. Their people are making better decisions because they're watching someone else making better decisions and being a better human. They then also see that as an example and go, well, we can be like that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, in my understanding, every business is really all about people and systems, right? Or systems and people, whichever way you want to put it. And I find that,
Yeah.
with people, it's obviously a very intuitive way to sort of grow a business, finding new people, and you either connect with them or you don't. But when it comes to systems, I find that that's the one area the business often gets neglected. When it comes to growing businesses or larger businesses, in terms of attention split from a business owner or the focus, how much do you think a business should be focused at the systems perspective when they're in this growth phase? Because we do get quite a lot of people coming through, and it feels like if they're going to keep growing the way they're growing, the wheels are going to fall off their bandwagon. So what's your take on systems, and how much attention should be spent on that?
It depends on the complexity of the systems they have in place at the moment. If they have none and they're looking to grow, then if they want that to be consistent and be in a space where it's going to add efficiency going forward, then systems are imperative. Having them in place to be able to grow is, you need that in place. Where we sit, we don't spend a lot of time on implementing systems and processes for business owners. We partner with others to be able to come in and add that to a business rather than us be the ones that are adding that. So, we talked earlier about a circle of trust. Yeah. So in our space, we reset a strategy, but rather than us be the ones that are implementing and delivering a strategy as in systems and processes, we have quality people in our space who do that.
Mm.
And so rather than us try to be all things for everyone and do everything so we can stay in control of the whole organization, our role is not to be that. Our role is to look at a business and go, right, so you're looking to grow. What is it that you're going to need around you? What's the scaffolding you're going to need to allow you to have consistent results? Is that having marketing plans in place? Is that having accountants who can give you the right structuring? Is that having your contracts in place? Insurance brokers? Is that having people that deal in CRM implementation? Efficiency from technological advancements? Whatever that is, for us, and again, knowing that we don't want to be all things to everyone, for us, that's where we connect with people like yourself, like IT providers, like accountants, like lawyers, like all of the people that are in and around us. They become the experts in the implementation phase. We stay at a space where we ensure that we're independent and we're at a space where we can not be the ones that are in the weeds of doing everything across the board. And so that's why I say, if there's specific accounting advice, legal advice, insurance advice, SEO, if they want to grow incrementally, and we see that the scaffolding they don't have around them is going to mean they're going to pour fuel on the fire, but they're not going to be able to sustain it, then we go, right, I'm going to introduce you to our systems and process expert. They're going to sit down and they're going to look at the scaffolding you need from a systems and process perspective. And I plug into experts like yourself, like accountants, and I have what I classify as a circle of trust. For me, that makes it easier to be able to be independent and not be the one that has to be the accountant, the lawyer, because specific advice changes. And every industry changes. SEO, everything changes daily, weekly. It's not my responsibility to stay up to date with 18 different industry types and the movements in it. My job is to stay strategically at a level where we work in that space. We help them keep that clear and accountable, but then we also plug into that space with people who are going to give them the specific advice around what is going to be best for them. And from a system and process perspective, that's why we've chosen to have others that love that stuff because it's not 100% the stuff that we love. So
Yeah.
that's okay, but that's okay.
I think,
Yeah, that's okay.
since you told me about the whole circle of trust idea, I quite, I quite like that from get go. And I think every single business that's established has got some sort of a circle of trust. But the issue is oftentimes it's not being strategically addressed in the sense of, okay, how are you maintaining these relationships? Are you cross promoting them as well? And look, the fundamental part to the circle of trust, from what I understand, is obviously having people who you trust, who are good at what they do and are able to obviously help your customers. In this way, they're dealing with a specialist, everything's done in the best way possible. And obviously, if you're doing this with other businesses that are connected, everyone gets the best outcome. I really like that idea. So, with this approach of circular trust, is this a part of your business, or is this something you're promoting as a concept? What's the dynamics of this circular trust idea?
So at the moment, and this could go at this stage, this could go anywhere. But for me, what I've chosen to do is to allow me in my business and in my space to ensure that I've got quality people that I know, like, and trust and can refer. Because let's be honest, if you refer someone in your networks, or if you refer someone, a client or a potential client, or someone that even needs help to a person, you're transferring the trust that you have with them to this other person. And transferring that trust to someone that lets them down, then that becomes challenging. And so for me, I've worked really hard on building the relationships with people that I can, hand on heart, literally send to others who may need assistance. And I go, ring them, just tell them I sent you, and they will help you out. Or they'll be honest, and if they can't help you out, they'll be honest and tell you they can't. Or they will say, look, I don't do that, or things have shifted and I'm not able to help you. However, this is a person that I would trust, and I feel that if Paul needed someone, I would recommend them to him at the same time. So for me, it allows me to be able to transfer the trust that I have with that person I'm having a conversation with to someone else who I know is going to treat them like I would treat them.
Great.
And so that, for me, it's, that's the essence of ensuring that the trust is maintained and the quality of delivery is also maintained.
Right. Well, let's change the dynamic of this call a little bit and make it a little bit more interesting. I've got this section that I introduced into my podcast called Rapid Fire. This is where I ask you really simple, quick questions, and I just want simple, quick answers. So, mate, you travel to Melbourne quite a lot, and there's a bit of a dilemma between Melbourne and Brisbane in terms of coffee. So, where is the best coffee, Brisbane or Melbourne?
Brisbane.
Okay, great.
Death before decaf.
Your favorite personal development book?
The Go-Giver.
Who is that by? I haven't come across that.
Oh, I was looking at it yesterday. I forget. There's two guys who've written it. I'll find it, and if I'll send it to you, and you can throw it into a chat box at some stage.
I had a look at your LinkedIn profile. You're done a bit of rugby in your lifetime. So is it England or Australia? Who's better?
At the moment, they're both rubbish. But I have a British passport and I'm Australian. So I would like to say that they both win, but I will go Australia by a point.
Yay. Mate, look, this has been great. Your business is called the Mentors Group. Is that correct?
That's it.
So,
Mentors Group.
If somebody wants to get a hold of you or get in touch, what's the best way to go about finding you and connecting with you?
Yeah, my website, www.mentorsgroup.com.au. On the front page, there are 3 links, one to Victoria, one to New South Wales, and one to Queensland. And that will get you a 20-minute free chat. Generally, it's 30 minutes, just to have a chat about what may be in your space and whether we may be suitable. If not, I'll be honest and upfront. And if we can't help, then we'll either, generally most people walk away with 3 or 4 things they can work on immediately. But if we can, we'll have a conversation of next steps. If not, that's okay. We'll either refer you to someone or give you some tips, and that's all you might need. So, we're Melbourne, Sydney, Mornington Peninsula down in Victoria, and also Southeast Queensland.
Great, great. Well, look, like I said, I personally love the whole circle of trust idea, and I look forward to catching up with you about that in the future. Any of our listeners, if you guys enjoyed the idea of that, feel free to reach out to Paul and maybe clarify that. That could be the conversation starter. But I think Paul's got a lot of knowledge that could potentially help your business. Guys, I hope you are enjoying this particular podcast. So whatever platform you're listening on, don't forget to subscribe and recommend this to your friends. And Paul, mate, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate you finding the time out of your busy Thursday to spend the time on this podcast.
Thanks, Lexi, and great podcast, great initiative. Love it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, guys, I'll chat to you soon.